Okay, on our mats today, let's start on our backs. Bring the soles of the feet to the mat, rest the head down. You can either have the arms down by the sides, or you could have the hands on the body. You could do left hand on the heart, right hand on the belly, if that feels good. But close the eyes. Let's start to come to the breath. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Slow exhale out of the mouth. 2 more like that. Deep breath in through the nose, fill all the way up. Exhale out of the mouth. Last one, deep breath in. Exhale out. This time in through the nose. Back out through the nose. Keep going. Finding your Ujjayi breath. Committing to coming back to it as many times as you can, as quick as you can. Blink open the eyes if they're closed. Reach the arms just straight up, palms facing away from you, fingertips up toward the sky. Right arm in front of the left arm, so you're just crossing up high by the triceps. Turn the palms to face down toward the ground, and then slide the hands underneath the shoulder blades. You're sneaking the fingers underneath you. Elbows are going down toward the chest. You don't want them up toward the face. And it's like you're trying to pull the shoulder blades apart. Shoulders continue to move away from the ears. And it's a nice light upper body opening, or maybe you're tight there and you're feeling a lot here. That's fine too. Make sure it's just a gentle opening wherever you are. So if it is deep quickly, then just back off a little bit. Plenty of time to get into the shoulders and the whole body. But when we start, we go gently into poses and work our way deeper over time. And then extend the arms back up to the sky. This time, left arm in front of the right. Turn the palms to face down. Slide the hands underneath you. Elbows away from the face, down toward the chest. Ujjayi breath. And reach the arms back up. Hug the right knee in toward the chest. Extend the left leg out in front of you. Let the heel rest down on the mat. If that bothers the lower back, then you can simply bring the left foot back to the mat and stay like that. If it feels okay, then hug the right knee in, stretch that left foot away from you, toes point up, and then you can open up the right knee out to the side. Left hand comes to the top of the left hip. You're only going about halfway, so that the knee is more in line with the shoulder, maybe almost like you're trying to bring it up to the underarm. Try not to take that right hip with you though. So keep the sit bones level, but keep bringing the right knee in. You won't be able to bring it up that high if the hip's in place. And right knee comes back to center. Give it a squeeze. Set the right foot down onto the mat. Hug the left knee in toward the chest. Maybe play with extending that right leg forward. Toes point up. Leg is firm. Then open the left knee out to the left. Right hand on top of the right thigh. You're not going as far as you can. It's more like halfway with the left knee. And then adjust the sit bones. So if you were standing, the sit bones would be side by side, not the left one higher than the right. Both shoulder blades down on the mat, head on the mat. Right hip definitely on the mat. Left knee comes back in toward the chest. Bring the right knee in toward the chest. So both knees are in. You can rock side to side a little bit. And then extend the legs up. Reach the arms up. Hug the belly in. Take an inhale. And then lift up on the exhale like you're trying to touch the toes. Set it all back down on the inhale. It's just the upper body that moves. Exhale, reach up. Inhale back. Hug the belly in as you reach up with those fingers, trying to touch the toes. Inhale back. Exhale up. Inhale back. Exhale up. Inhale back. Exhale up. Stay up. Just bring the arms forward, palms face up. So you're reaching toward the top of the mat. And then from here, maybe you start to lower the legs away from you, just like a third of the way or even less. You'll feel the difference between having the legs up and then out part of the way. Now go 2/3 of the way. You're still reaching forward. Belly hugs in. You might experience some shaking. And then lower the heels down above the mat without touching. You're still reaching the arms forward. Looking forward helps. Upper body's lifted. And then interlace the fingers back behind the head. Look up. You can bring the chest back a little bit and then exhale, lift up. Inhale back. Exhale up. Inhale back. Exhale up. One more. Inhale back. Exhale up, stay up, reach the arms forward, come to Navasana, hug the belly in, lift the knees. You can have the legs bent or the legs straight, just depends on how it feels on the hip flexors and the hamstrings. But chest is lifted and you're looking up to keep the chest lifted. So it should feel like a V shape with the body, especially if the legs are straight. But if the legs are bent, then you have that V shape with the thighs and the spine. And then set the feet back down to the mat. Come to an easy cross-legged seat. And we'll reach the arms all the way up on the inhale. On the exhale, forward fold. So getting into the hips again, take your time. It doesn't need to be the deepest forward fold. Let the head and the neck go. And start to walk the hands back in. Bring the hands back behind you, lean back, switch the crossing of the legs. Inhale the arms all the way up. And on the exhale, forward fold, same thing, other side. Start to explore the hip opening. Slowly inching your way in a little further, but staying away from your edge for this first big hip opening. And you'll start to walk the hands back in, coming up to seated. Bring the feet over to one side and you'll come forward to hands and knees, finding tabletop. If you want to open up the wrist, cat-cow is a nice place to do that. You can turn the fingers out to the sides. You can turn the hands all the way around, lining the shoulders up over the heels of the hands. On an inhale, reach the heart forward, lift the tail. On the exhale, round the whole spine, chin in toward the chest. And then you keep going at your own pace, following your breath. Or staying in one spot and breathing there if you feel like that's a better option. Fingers are spread evenly wherever you are. And you're pressing down into the whole hand. So the fingertips, heel of the hand, knuckles. One more, forward and back. Come back to a neutral spine. If you have the hands turned, turn them back so that they face forward. And then make sure the shoulders are stacked right over the wrist. Fingers are still spread. Index fingers are pointing forward or a little bit out. Step the feet back behind you, coming into plank pose, top of a push-up. Knees can be down for your plank pose, especially if you have anything going on in the upper body. But bring the navel up toward the sternum, bring the gaze forward. You're still looking down at the ground, but you're just looking forward a little bit, maybe more toward the top of the mat, depending on where you've landed with your plank. And then the tops of the thighs, they press up toward the sky. So they're not going down toward the mat. And your core is a little bit easier to access here after the core work we started with. And you'll find it's such a big part of plank pose. Core is what keeps you strong and stable as you stay with your breath, Ujjayi breath. Bring the knees down to the mat, set the chest down to the mat. Tops of the feet to the mat, reach the arms back behind you, squeeze the hands together. It's like you're holding a beach ball between the hands. And then as you hug the belly in, point the tailbone back, lift and spread the chest. Doesn't need to be very high. We're just starting out with our back bends. Back of the neck is long, so you look down the bridge of the nose. And exhale, release. You can either turn the head to one side and just rest the arms next to the body. Some of you like to bring one hand on top of the other, and you can keep it symmetrical with the forehead down or head to one side. Not here for long, but those are your options for when we rest between Shalambasanas or that locust pose that we're playing with. So tops of the feet down to the mat, reach the arms back behind you, squeeze the hands together, tailbone goes back, belly hugs in, lift and spread the chest. It's like you're trying to bring the heart forward ahead of the head. And release on your next exhale. If you're turning the head side to side, switch the direction. If the head's coming straight down, you're fine. One last one. So press down into the tops of the feet, reach the arms back behind you, squeeze those hands together. Those outer ankles hug in a little bit, and there's a squeezing of the inner thighs. Lift and spread the chest. You could hover the feet, just don't lose the length in the legs. So keep those toes pointing straight back, trying to get as much length as you can. And slowly release. This time, bring the hands to the mat, come up to hands and knees, take child's pose, big toes together, hips sit back, forehead comes down. Hips are as high as you need them to be for the knees. So if the knees are talking to you because they need more space, lift the hips up until they quiet down. Then looking forward at the hands, shift forward to hands and knees, tuck the toes, lift the hips. Downward facing dog. First one of this practice. So maybe you take a wider stance or pedal out the feet. If you have a ritual, go for it. Then coming to stillness in your downward facing dog, look forward at the hands. Step the right foot outside of the right hand. So it's a wide lunge. And then right away, set that back knee down, lift the chest. So hands are right underneath the shoulders, right knees pointing straight forward. So are those right toes. You can widen the stance as much as you need to make that happen. And if it feels like the mat's too far away, bring the hands on blocks. Chest is reaching forward, so you're trying to take any rounding out of the upper back. Then back toes tuck, lift the back knee up, step back, downward facing dog. Straight over to the other side, look forward, left foot steps outside of the left hand. As soon as you get there, back knee comes down, chest lifts, heart's reaching forward. Keep that left knee and toes pointing forward. Breathing into this left hip. Back toes tucked, lift the back knee, stepping back, downward facing dog. Look forward, right foot outside of the right hand. This time, keep the back knee up. Reach the heart forward. So now you're in a more active version of lizard pose, trying to open up those hips, but we'll make it a little bit more dynamic. So go slow with this one. We're going to play with getting into the hamstring. Hips lift up and back. You straighten the front leg. Maybe the toes lift on the right foot. You might have a deep bend in that right knee. This is a lot to ask, so don't force it. Just go to a place where you're starting to get into the backside of the right leg. And then come back forward to your lunge, reach the heart forward 2 more times with that. Straighten the front leg, hips go back. So it's like half splits or pyramid. And then inhale forward to your wide lunge. 1 more time. Inhale, lift it up and back. Exhale forward to your lunge, step back, downward facing dog, left foot outside of the left hand, wide lizard lunge with that back knee up. Take your time on this side so you can feel your way into it. Lift the hips up and back. Maybe the front leg gets a little straighter. Maybe the toes lift up. Those are all options that deepen with intensity. So back up if it's too much. Then inhale forward to your lunge. Exhale back, straighten the front leg. 2 more like that. Come forward with your lunge. Bring it back as you straighten the front leg. Last one, inhale forward. Exhale back. Then come back to your lunge to step back, downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, bend the knees, look forward, walk the feet up to the hands. So take several steps to get there, coming up slowly. Inhale up halfway, hands up the sides of the legs. Exhale, forward fold. 2 more like that. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. This time we're coming all the way up. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, bring the hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose, shift forward onto the toes, bend the elbows halfway, up dog or cobra. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Working the heels down toward the mat. They don't have to touch. At the same time, you're lifting up the hips as high as you can. And that's where you start to feel the length in the back sides of the legs and your downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose, lower down halfway chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, Bend the knees, hands come down to the mat, step back to plank pose, lower down halfway chaturanga. Keep those legs strong as you come to up dog. So the legs is what is powering the pose. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Looking forward at the hands in your downward facing dog, right foot outside of the right hand, coming back to that wide lizard lunge. Back knees up if that's okay. Hands are down, heart's reaching forward. Right knee is hugging in toward the outer right arm. So the arm and the knee are connected. And then come back to a three-legged down dog. So that right leg lifts up and back. Step the right foot up between the hands. Spin the left heel down flat like warrior two and come up for warrior two. So even out the weight in the legs, make sure you're using the back leg. Try to keep the head right over the hips and then press down with the hands a little bit so you feel like there's a release in the shoulders and you're actually using your arm muscles to hold the arms up. Then right forearm, right thigh, left arm goes straight up. So sometimes we go up and over the ear, just go to side angle pose. Left arm's going straight up to the sky. And you open up across the chest. You can guide that right knee straight over the second and third toe with the forearm. So if it wants to cave in, open it up so you stay in that right hip and then drive down through that left leg as much as you can at the same time. We're coming back to reverse warrior. So legs stay the same, reach that right palm up and then back. Send that right knee straight forward and windmill the hands down to the mat. Step back to downward facing dog. Stay here or take a vinyasa. From down dog, looking forward, left foot outside the left hand, wide lizard lunge, keeping the back knee up, heart reaching forward, just hands down on the mat underneath the shoulders is good. And then you'll take it back to three-legged down dog. So left leg reaches up and back. This time, left foot between the hands, step it all the way through. Spin that right heel down flat, heel to arch or heel to heel. Warrior two, taking your time getting there. So if you swing up too fast, it just creates a lot of momentum in the body, doesn't build any strength, and it makes your balance tough to get back. So pressing down to the front heel and outer edge of the back foot. So it's like you're lifting that right inner arch. Belly lifts up, tail goes down a little bit. Left forearm, left thigh, right arm straight up to the sky. Side angle pose. Use that to keep opening up across the chest and then guiding that left knee straight over the second and third toe. Keep pressing that right leg through the mat. Reverse warrior when you're ready. Left palm faces up and then reach it up and then back. It's always more up than back when you're reaching a reverse warrior. Keep the lunge. And windmill the hands down to the mat. Step straight back, downward facing dog. Stay here. Focus on the breath or glide forward to plank pose, lower down halfway. Inhale up for your back bend. Keep those legs strong. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Start to bend the knees, looking forward toward the top of the mat. Step, walk, maybe lightly hop. Bring the feet forward. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose. So bending the knees, reaching the arms up. Come all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Let's bring the hands to the lower back. So you could have the fingertips pointing down, outer elbows hug in. This is a good place to start. Feet hip width distance apart. Keep the hips right over the heels, but keep the legs strong. So that means shrugging up the muscles in the legs. Belly hugs in, it starts to lift up. Gaze can maybe lift up unless you want to stay looking forward, that's fine. Chest opens and you start to lean back without taking the hips with you. Keep the core engaged so you have that support for the chest to lean back. So it's a standing camel, standing Ustrasana pose. And then come back up to standing, chair pose. Put the weight into the heels, reach the arms forward and up. Then exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Widen the feet as much as you need to come down into a yogi squat. So heels can come in, toes can come out. We need those heels to touch something. So you can always roll up your mat if you need to. And if they just won't touch anything, then you keep the hands out in front of you with the heels lifted and the hands there for support. But if the heels come down, then maybe the hands come together, elbows inside of the knees, and you get this hip opening here. Right arm can come down toward the ground. Left arm can reach up, but watch that left knee. It wants to go in. Keep it opening. So the left knee and the toes go in the same direction. Then come back to center, hands come together, left hand comes down, right arm reaches up, right knee, keep it honest so it's going over the toes, same direction, not going in toward the mat or down toward the mat. Then come back to center, Malasana, keep the chest lifted. You're pressing down into the feet and lifting up through the pelvic floor. So you're not relaxed there. And then hands come down to the mat, straighten the legs, keep that wide stance, toes point forward, step the left foot back behind you. So you're back in that wide lizard lunge, hands underneath the shoulders, right foot outside of the right hand, looking forward, chest reaching forward, three-legged down dog. Right leg goes up and back. Right foot steps up between the hands. Warrior two, take your time, come up with strength. Right forearm, right thigh, left arm reaches up, side angle pose, but we've done a lot of hip opening. You could play with bringing that right hand down inside the foot. A block is a nice thing to have underneath that right hand if you want it. Otherwise, you can keep the hand down to the mat. You could even be on fingertips too. That's another good alternative to having the hand flat. But left arm reaches straight up, not up and over the ear. Keep both legs strong. So drive down through that left leg. Reverse warrior. Take your time. Right arm reaches up and back. And windmill the hands down to the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot, step that left foot forward up to the top of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose, bend the knees, reach the arms up. Come all the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Bring the hands to the lower back. Same thing, we're gonna play with that standing camel, but we'll take our time, make sure we get the foundation set up first. So pressing down into the soles of the feet, lifting up through the quads, the belly, hug those outer elbows in, start to lift the chest. Gaze can be forward as you lean back, or it can be up. It's just a matter of comfort. One's not better than the other. Just as long as we keep the back of the neck long. So you wanna keep the head from cranking all the way back. Come back up to standing. Bend the knees, reach the arms up, chair pose, hug the belly in tight. Still a little bit of a back bend here. Chest is reaching up, but try not to stick the tail out too far. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat. Widen the feet as much as you need to. You're coming back into Malasana, yogi squat. Remember, there's so many different versions of it. You can also sit on a block too. Hands come together. If the heels are down, elbows inside of the knees. Little different this time. Left hand comes down toward the ground. Right arm reaches up. You could stay right here, or you could turn that right palm to face behind you and wrap the right arm behind the back. Keep that right knee going straight over the right toes. Maybe you lower the left shoulder and you wrap the left arm around the leg, coming into a bind. Just an option. If it's not there, skip it. You can do the half bind or skip any bind. Left hand comes down, right arm reaches up. Come back to Malasana, facing forward, hands together in front of the heart. This time, right hand comes down, left arm reaches up. Keep that left knee in place. Maybe you turn that left palm to face behind you, wrap the left arm behind the back, stay here, or lower that right shoulder, turn the right hand around, and maybe the hands connect around that right leg. Right hand comes back down to the ground. Left arm reaches up, back to Malasana, facing forward. Hands come down to the mat. Straighten the legs, keep them wide. Toes turn to point forward. Hands between the feet. Step that right foot back. Lizard pose. So palms are flat underneath the shoulders. Right leg pushes back. Chest is reaching forward. Three-legged down dog. Left leg goes up and back. Left foot steps up between the hands. Right heel down flat. Warrior two, Virabhadrasana 2. Side angle pose. Decide which arm variation is working for you on this side. Maybe forearm to thigh. Maybe you're going deeper with the left hand down and the right arm up. Reverse warrior, fire up both legs, reach that left palm up and back. And windmill the hands down to the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot, right foot steps up to meet the left foot. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose, maybe a vinyasa on the way to downward facing dog. Few breaths in this downward facing dog. You haven't had one in a while. Get the length in the arms and the legs first, then the spine, let the head and the neck go. So now you're warm. This is a big pose. It opens up the whole body. That's what we want to use it for here. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, maybe lightly hop, feet come up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Utkatasana chair pose. Bend the knees, weight into the heels of the feet, arms reach up. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Hands to the lower back. So you do have the option to turn the hands around so the fingertips point up, but for a lot of us, it might be too much for the wrists and the forearm. So if it is, then fingers just point down. So choosing whichever one's feeling good today. Hug those outer elbows in, fire up the legs, lift the chest, keep that core strong. Maybe you start to lean back with the chest, gaze forward or up. Standing camel. Chest comes back up to center. Start to bring the arms down by the sides, bend the knees, reach the arms up, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up, halfway. Fingertips to the mat, widen the feet, back to Malasana. Heels in, toes out. Unless you can do a squat with the toes pointing forward and the heels straight back. That's an option too, but that's a lot of hip mobility. I certainly don't have it, but I don't want to keep you away from it if you do. All right, so right arm comes down, left arm reaches up. Come back to center. Same thing, other side. Left arm comes down, right arm reaches up. Come back to center. Hands come down to the mat, straighten the legs, toes point forward, hands between the feet, left foot steps back, wide lizard lunge. Three-legged down dog. Right foot steps up between the hands. Left heel comes down flat, warrior two. Side angle pose. Maybe the right hand comes down, left arm reaches up. You could play with the half bind, turning that left palm to face behind you, wrapping the left arm behind the back. If it seems like an option that's there, you could also reach underneath that right thigh with the right arm and see if the hands connect. But if everything starts to collapsing down toward the mat, then you got to give something up. Maybe it's just the half bind and you stay here. But if you can keep the hands connected, the chest still spinning up, keep that lunge in the front leg and driving down through the back leg. You've got it. Stay there. Find your breath. Right hand comes down if it's back, left arm reaches up, reverse warrior, use that back leg, keep the front knee bent, and then let's straighten the front leg. Bring the arms out wide. We need a triangle. Reach the right arm forward, hips go back, right arm down, left arm up. Turn that left palm to face forward and reach the left arm up and over the ear. So extended triangle. Maybe you start to reach the right arm forward. Come back up to standing, warrior two. Windmill the hands down to the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot, step that left foot forward, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold back to chair pose. Bend the knees, reach the arms up. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Standing camel. Find your hand placement, either fingers going down, fingertips pointing down, or fingertips pointing up. Shrug the muscles up in the legs. Lift the core, lift the chest, keep the hips over the feet as best you can. Outer elbows hug in. Start to come back up to standing. Arms down by the sides, Tadasana mountain pose. Find the weight in the heels of the feet, bend the knees, reach the arms up. Utkatasana. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat. Malasana, yogi squat. Find your feet. Maybe you widen them. Hips come down. Hands together in front of the heart. Left hand down, right arm up. Back to Malasana. Right hand down, left arm up. Back to Malasana. Hands down to the mat. Straighten the legs. Toes point forward. Hands between the feet, right foot steps back, wide lizard lunge. Left leg goes up and back, three-legged down dog. Left foot steps up between the hands, spin that right heel down flat, warrior two. Side angle pose. Maybe the left hand comes down inside the foot, right arm reaches up. Option for the half bind, turn the right palm to face behind you, wrap the arm behind the back. Maybe the left arm, you lower the chest so that you can get the left hand underneath. And then maybe the hands connect and then you find that length, the lunge. And maybe it worked on one side and it doesn't work on the other. That happens. Left hand comes down, right arm reaches up, reverse warrior. Left arm reaches up and back. Keep the lunge in the front leg and straighten it. Keep reaching up and back, come up to standing. Maybe you shorten the stance a little bit for your triangle pose, reaching that left arm forward, then down, right arm up. Right palm turns to face forward, reach the arm over the ear. Make sure you still have control of the back leg. Then hug the belly in. Maybe that left palm reaches forward. Bring it all the way back up to standing. Warrior 2, looking over the left hand. Windmill the hands down to the mat. Come onto the ball of the back foot. Step that right foot forward to the top of the mat. So bring the feet hip width distance apart. How you know they're about hip width distance is if you take your 2 fists and bring them between the feet. So they need to be at least that wide. And then just stay with your forward fold. So you can just let the hands and the head and the neck go. Okay, so we've been doing all of this to work toward a peak pose. We'll play with it now. There are a couple different ways to get into it. So we'll play with both ways and see how it goes. So bring the, I'll demo this side. So left arm, bring it behind the leg. So I'm making a fist because it's just easier to keep control of the arm. So it's like you wrap that left arm behind the leg and reach the fist through between the legs. And then bend the knees like chair pose. Keep that right hand to the right hip. And that left hip's going to want to go out to the left. See if you can keep it right behind the knee. Lift that left heel up. Now you're putting more weight into the right leg. Belly hugs in, look forward, chest is lifting. And then you'll start to lift that left leg up all the way up to standing. Once you get to standing, left knee can come out to the side. Maybe you extend that left leg up. It doesn't have to be all the way straight. Right arm can come out to the side as a counterbalance if that helps. Right thigh presses back. So it's a modified version of bird of paradise. Then bend that left knee. You're coming back the way you came in. Right hand, right hip. Start to lower that foot down. You'll just set it down as gently as you can. That's where the strength happens. Hands down, straighten the legs. Let the head and the neck go. Wrap the right arm behind the right leg. Fist comes through between the legs. Start to put a bend in the knees like chair pose. Left hand, left hip. Bring that right heel up so you shift more weight into the left hip without swinging that left hip out to the side. Look forward, chest forward. Slowly start to lift that right leg up, keeping it connected. And then once you get up to standing, maybe that right leg straightens. Maybe the left arm comes out to the side as a counterbalance. Left thigh back, stand tall. Right sit bone next to the left sit bone. It wants to lift up higher. Then bend that right knee, left hand, left hip. Slowly come down with control, setting that right foot down to the mat. Hands down, straighten the legs. Let the head and the neck go. So you can stick with that version of bird of paradise. I'll give you another one. Make sure the feet didn't end up too close together. You can always go a little wider than hip width distance, but not too wide. All right. So this time you either stick with what we did before and you wrap the left arm behind the left leg, or you go the other way. So you bring the left arm between the legs, like you're reaching back behind the feet, bend the leg, and then you can get that left hand maybe back behind the thigh, and then right arm reaches up and back, and you see if the hands connect. So you're binding behind the left leg. And then start to lift the left heel, look forward. Right hip has to stay behind the right knee. You press down into the right leg to start to lift the left leg up to standing, hugging the core in, lifting the chest, keeping the gaze forward. Left sit bone next to the right sit bone. Maybe the leg stays bent. Maybe it opens up. That's all hamstring. Some of us are tight there. Do the best you can. Wherever you are, slowly start to bend the knee, set that left foot back down to the mat, release the bind or any holding of the legs, straighten the legs, let the head of the neck go. So it's a huge pose. There's a couple different ways to get into it. This is one, and sometimes this one works better for people. So we're playing with it today. All right, if you want that full bind, right hand between the feet, walk it back, and then reach that left arm up, wrap it around the back. Maybe you get the right hand so that it connects with the left hand. Bend the knees like chair, but make sure you don't swing the hips out to the side. Lift that right heel up. Dig down into the left leg, hug the core in, start to lift the chest all the way up to standing. Maybe the leg straightens, but maybe it doesn't. It can stay bent. Sit bones are side by side. Then slowly start to lower that right foot back down to the mat. Hands back down to the mat. Straighten the legs, forward fold. So let's take a wider forward fold. Widen the feet, clasp opposite elbows. You can let the head and the neck go. Maybe you sway side to side. And then switch the grip. Hands between the feet, so you have a wider forward fold. Step the left foot back behind you. Set the back knee down. And then from here, we'll stay in lizard pose. We've been playing with this. You can use a block underneath the chest, bringing the forearms down to the block. You could also turn those right toes out, maybe halfway, and come onto the outer edge of the foot. That just gets into a different part in the hip. So that's another option too. The back foot, back knee are down on the mat. So hips and shoulders have to be really open for a bird of paradise. And even when my hips and shoulders are totally open, I still can't really do the pose 100%, but I can get enough weight in there to make it happen. And so I wanted to show you both ways, because that fish hook way of the leg is a nice way to experience the pose if you can't get the bind and everything else deep enough. So come back up onto the hands, turn those right toes to point forward if you opened it up. Tuck the back toes, scoot that back knee as far as you can so you're above the kneecap, and then you can let the left foot go. Top of the foot to the mat. Right hand, right hip, open the chest to the right, which should feel so nice. Maybe you stay right here. This is a great place to be. Some of you can bend that left knee, reach back, grab for the foot, finding a quad stretch. Not necessary. If you have the foot, gently release. We'll all bring the right hand back down to the mat. Let's bring the right hand outside the foot, heel toe the right foot in a little bit, half split. So shift the hips back, straighten that front leg, toes lift up, and you reach the heart forward over those right toes. Foot's not pushing away from you, it's coming in toward the body. So there's a little bit of scissoring of the inner thighs. Then set the sole of the right foot down to the mat, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, step that left foot forward to the top of the mat. Little wider than hip width distance with the feet, hands between the feet, step the right foot back behind you. Hands come down, back knee comes down, lizard pose. So rest the top of the foot, Maybe you come down a little deeper. You could bring a block underneath the chest. It has 3 heights. You can find a height. And if you have 2 blocks, you could stack both blocks. That's another great option too, and come onto the forearms this way. So just find a pleasant version of lizard. Maybe the toes on the left foot turn out a little bit, no more than halfway, and then you can roll onto the outer edge of the foot. And you'll feel that shift in the hip opening. It goes to a different place. Chest is still reaching forward. And sole of the left foot comes back to the mat. Come back up onto the hands. Turn the left toes to point forward. Tuck the back toes, scoot that back knee as far back as you can. See if you can get above the kneecap. Then you can rest the foot. Left hand, left hip. Open the chest to the left. Staying here or playing with bending the back leg, seeing if the foot's there. Maybe the left hand and the right foot connect. They don't have to. If they don't, you let the foot go, left hand on the hip. Gently release that right foot if you have it. Heel toe the left foot in so that it's more towards center. Left hand outside the left foot. Scoot the hips back, straightening this front leg, lifting the toes on the left foot. And then push it forward a little bit so the hips are side by side. Chest is reaching forward, half splits. Ardha Hanuman. Come back onto the sole of the left foot, hands to the mat, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, step back, downward facing dog. Couple breaths here, feeling the difference in the body. Set the knees down to the mat, child's pose. Big toes together, hips go back, forehead down, arms out in front of you or maybe behind you. Backs of the hands rest outside of the legs. Then bring the hands down to the mat, lift the head and the chest. Feet come over to one side and you extend the legs forward out in front of you. So we'll come to an easy cross-legged seat. Let's bring the right shin in front of the left shin so we're all in the same place. You can shift side to side so that the hip bones are even. So you're trying to cross that mid shin, toes pointing forward. This is Sukhasana. Maybe you stay here. Your hips are pretty open. You could play with double pigeon today. All you do is grab this right foot, bring it on top of the left knee, but you need to be able to flex the foot and the shins are out. So if you look down at the legs, we also call this fire log pose. And if the knees are going way out ahead of the feet, then the feet are too far back. All right, so if this works, great. If there's a big gap between the right knee and the left foot, you can fill it with a block, a blanket, a bolster. If there's not, then just stay there. And if this doesn't work, you just take the right foot back down and you do everything we're about to do. So wherever you are with the legs, maybe the hands just come down by the sides and you work the knees down toward the mat, or you could start to walk the hands forward, finding a deeper hip opening. Close the eyes wherever you are, come to the breath. Slowly start to walk the hands back in. If you have this right foot on top of the left knee, just bring it forward so it's back down on the mat and you're back in Sukhasana. Sit up tall and then open the chest to the right. So you're coming into a seated twist. Left hand can rest on the shin, or you can bring the back of the hand to the right thigh. Just don't jam the hand into the leg to find the twist. Use the core to find the twist. That left hand's just there for support to stay where you are, not to go deeper. Gaze over that right shoulder. And the gaze comes back forward, unwind the torso, lean back on the hands, separate the feet hip width or a little wider, and then bring the knees side to side, windshield wipers. And then you'll come back to an easy cross-legged seat, left shin in front of the right. Maybe you move side to side a couple of times to feel even. Walk the feet away from you so the shins are parallel and the knees aren't jutting way out in front of the feet. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you play with taking this left foot on top of the right knee. One side might work, maybe the other side doesn't. If there's a big gap, then there's something that goes between the foot and the knee. It can be soft, it can be a block, whatever it is. Maybe the hands come back and you just work the knees down toward the mat, or maybe the hands start to walk forward and you fold forward. So you're finding where your hip opening is. You'll start to walk the hands back in, coming back up to seated. If that left foot is stacked on top of the right knee, just bring it forward, back down to the mat. Open the chest to the left, maybe right hand on the shin, or back of the right hand to the thigh for support, sitting up as tall as you can, pressing into those sit bones. Gaze goes over the left shoulder. Keep the body, just bring the gaze back forward, feeling the release on the neck. Slowly unwind the chest and the arms, lean back onto the hands, separate the feet, outer edges of the mat, and move the knees side to side, back to windshield wipers. And extending the legs out in front of you. One last seated forward fold, a quick one. Inhale, reach the arms up, and exhale, forward fold over the legs. If the feet are right there, great, but you don't want to take the shoulders with you to reach the feet. So if that isn't happening, skip it, and you can just rest the hands on the shins or the mat outside of the legs. And if you're feeling like you can go even further, you can put a block behind the feet. And slowly come back up to seated, all the way down onto your back for Shavasana, unless you want to stay up for a seated meditation. But that was a lot of physical work. So I'll leave you to decide. Lying on your back might be really nice today. Cover the eyes if you have something. That always makes it a little bit better. And let go of the breath control. If you need to take one more inhale deeply and then let it go out of the mouth, that's a nice way to settle in to stillness. You'll start to wiggle the fingers and the toes if you're on your back in Shavasana. If you're in your seated meditation, just stay still. We'll bring everybody back up to join you. Then reach the arms overhead if you're on your back, finding a stretch. Start to walk the feet in, bending the knees. Rolling over to your right side, cradling the head and the arm. Taking a moment here. And when you're ready, using the left hand to bring yourself up to your meditation seat. Sitting up as tall as you can, which is so much easier after your practice, this physical part of your asana. Bring the hands together in front of you. Keep that lift of the chest as you start to slightly bow the head. Honor and acknowledge your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Hope you had a good practice. That might have been a little bit more intense than what I meant, but it happened. So a deeper hip opening class for sure. See you next week.